Iran and the United States have agreed to set up communication lines to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. Tracking data shows the maritime traffic is flowing at a faster pace. But the big Hormuz question remains unanswered. Who actually controls it? Tehran has reiterated its intent to maintain control over the vital shipping lane under international laws. It also has issued a clear message. The Strait is not going back to pre-war conditions.
Two presidents shook hands at Versailles. They signed a deal to end a war. But 6 days later, nobody can agree on one simple question. Who controls the Strait of Hormuz? This is not a small dispute. 20% of the world's oil passes through this strait. And right now, the United States and Iran are reading the same agreement and seeing two different futures. President Trump and Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian put their names on a memorandum of understanding. It started a 60-day countdown. Inside that window, Iran agreed to let ships pass through Hormuz for free. No fees, no blockade. But the 60 days are not just about ships. They are about deciding who runs the strait after the clock runs out. While Trump called the deal historic, Iran's parliamentary speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, struck a very different tone. He said he made this clear on social media before the ceasefire even existed. The strait will never go back to how it was before the war. Listen to that carefully. One side is calling this peace. The other side is calling it a new arrangement on Iran's terms. Here is what most coverage is missing. This argument is not just political. It is legal, and it goes back decades. There are two competing treaties. The 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea says no coastal nation can block commercial shipping through an international strait. Oman signed and ratified this treaty in 1989. The United States treats it as the global standard. Iran never ratified it. Instead, Iran points to an older agreement, the 1958 Geneva Convention on the Territorial Sea. Under that older framework, Iran can claim its half of the strait as sovereign territory. That gives Iran something called innocent passage rights, instead of the stronger transit passage rights ships normally get in international straits. The difference matters. Under innocent passage, a coastal state can stop a vessel it sees as a threat to its peace or security. Under transit passage, it cannot. So when Iran talks about managing the strait after the 60 days end, this is the legal door it's using. Alongside the shipping question, Washington agreed to release $12 billion in frozen Iranian funds, paid out in two installments of $6 billion each. The U.S. also suspended oil sanctions on Iran through August 21st, letting Tehran sell crude again. President Trump framed this as controlled and conditional. He said Iran is supposed to use the money to buy food for its people and pointed to corn and soybean purchases from American farmers. When a reporter asked him directly if this gives Iran leverage over him, Trump did not deny it. He simply said, "We'll see." That answer is doing a lot of work. It is not a yes. It is not a no. While Washington and Tehran argue over interpretation, Oman is doing the quiet work. Ghalibaf traveled to Oman to negotiate joint arrangements for managing the strait going forward. Oman has publicly reaffirmed its commitment to international law and to free safe passage. That puts Oman in a difficult middle position. It is the only Gulf state that signed and ratified UNCLOS, and it has stayed largely outside the direct fighting. Now it is being asked to broker a permanent solution between two countries that cannot agree on which 60-year-old treaty applies. War correspondent Elijah Magnier offered a sharper read. He pointed to a possible compromise already used elsewhere. Turkey does not charge ships a passage fee through its straits. Instead, it charges for maintenance, environmental protection, and security. Magnier suggested Iran could adopt the same model, collecting money without technically violating freedom of passage law. But Magnier was skeptical that Iran would risk reigniting the conflict. His reasoning is about oil, not politics. The U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve has dropped from roughly 700 million barrels to somewhere between 330 and 340 million. Refilling it requires cheap oil. A new blockade would send prices up, not down, and the U.S. can no longer absorb that shock the way it once could. So here's where this actually stands. Ships are moving through Hormuz right now, and both sides are calling that a win. But the free passage window closes on a deadline, and after that, two countries with two different legal arguments have to agree on who is really in charge. The ceasefire holds for now. The bigger question, who controls one of the most important waterways on Earth? is still unanswered.